An FBI investigation found that an ex-Georgia cop had bragged in text messages about basically beating Black people in the community and also specifically charging them in such a way that it would make it difficult for them to vote. So he got caught, luckily, because the FBI was investigating this. They were investigating his texts, and initially this was an investigation into illegal weapons. During these text exchanges, which were with other extremists, by the way, Cody Richard Griggers of Montrose was fired last November after the FBI contacted the sheriff there about the investigation into illegal guns and their alleged ties to a California man said to have made violent political statements on Facebook. Now, Griggers, that's the cop here, in text was said to have claimed that he was making and gathering illegal firearms and explosives. So naturally, the FBI is like, we better look into that, and they did. FBI searched Griggers' patrol car and found a machine gun with an obliterated serial number, a weapon he was not allowed to have in his patrol car. An unregistered short barrel shotgun was found in his home, the statement went on. In all, between the defendant's residence and duty vehicle, officers found 11 illegal firearms. So he has already pleaded guilty to that, and he's facing a maximum of 10 years in prison as a result. Luckily, he's an ex-cop. He's not a deputy or anything anymore. But the second part of this is how he was communicating to other extremists about the way he feels about Black people in the community. So he, of course, texted all sorts of racist and bigoted things. He expressed viewpoints consistent with racially motivated violent extremism, including the use of racial slurs, slurs against homosexuals, gay people, and making frequent positive references to the Nazi Holocaust, prosecutors said in a statement announcing Griggers' plea. I'm gonna give you an example of something that he had written. I beat the expletive out of racial slur Saturday. Expletive tried to steal a gun magazine from the local gun store. Sheriff's department said it looked like he fell, meaning he beat him up so much that he looked like he fell and suffered a serious injury. The affidavit noted, quoting Griggers. Griggers went on to write that the beating was for him sweet stress relief. And he also bragged about how he was intending to charge the guy and ensure that he would be unable to vote in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those last two things are so important. One is, I mean, look at this. We have deeply racist cops. Not all of them in this. Look, I think their training is horrific throughout the country, and it teaches a culture of extreme violence towards the citizens. So that does apply, unfortunately, to everyone. Some people can resist it, but it's a few good apples, okay? But when it comes to racism, not all the cops are this over-the-top white supremacist racist, but there are a lot. Now, I want you to think about a couple of things about that. Okay, if you're not Black, it doesn't affect you at all. So presumably, if you're white, right? And so you never notice it. But think about if you were Black. There are a certain percentage of cops out there who have a gun and a badge and pretty much a near, untouchable status. And some of them are vicious racists. And they can't wait to beat the living crap out of you to just get what he said was, quote, sweet stress relief. How does that make you feel? And that guy, is he gonna be hesitant to use his gun against an unarmed Black man? And so, I mean, think about the terror of walking around knowing you don't know which one, but a certain percentage of cops can't wait to attack you for just who you are, just for being Black. He doesn't know a thing about you, but he wants to attack you. Now, that's not every cop, but just the fact that it's a lot of cops, it's so unbelievably disconcerting. And the fact that other people can't have empathy for that is just borderline shocking.
I also find the hiring process for local police departments shocking. I know that there's no uniform policy, and I'm sure it differs from one department to the next. But just experiencing what it was like to witness my husband go through the very extensive background check process to become a firefighter, which he didn't end up doing, but we went through the process. It is incredibly invasive. I mean, we're talking about being a firefighter. They show up to the building you live in, they knock on every neighbor's door, they interview every neighbor. They called me and asked me if I've ever dealt with any domestic abuse. I mean, it's just very thorough. It's just like a robust investigation into the person applying. And I just get the sense that with some police departments, that type of background check isn't taking place. Like, this guy is not only an extreme racist, but he had 11 illegal weapons. I mean, how did this guy get hired? That's what I want to know.
And how does he stay on the job until they discover this stuff? Does no one heard him saying outrageous racist things,
right,
which he says apparently on a regular basis? No one at the department heard him? No, thin blue line. You know what happened. People heard it and they covered up for it. And they thought, who cares if he beats up black people or maybe even kills them at some point? What's more important is solidarity for our gang. Keep it real. If you don't think there's a thin blue line, you're nuts. Of course there is. They brag about it, right? So what does a thin blue line mean? That means we protect criminals in our midst. It's like literally what it means. And I don't want you to gloss over that sweet stress relief thing. Again, it's not every cop, but are there some decent percentage of cops who beat up people because they think it's cathartic and they get off on it, and they're frustrated about their lives and they think, I could beat up people with impunity, and they do it basically for fun. If you think that doesn't exist, you're incredibly naive. So now, because we know that's part of human nature, we should guard against that. We should have a lot of precautions to make sure that police do not abuse their authority like that. Instead, we encourage them to do it. Oh, if anybody disrespects your order for even a split second, make sure that you viciously attack them to show who's boss. And that's why we see the videos of a 73-year-old woman getting mangled.
Right.
You saw the elderly gentleman in Buffalo get his skull cracked, because if anybody crosses you for a second, you get to have sweet stress relief. And it is encouraged by police departments all across the country. Keep it real. That's just the reality of our lives. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.